Yeah, we should be able to clock over 3 million rands for that simple project. So what has happened is, you have brought in your 7,500, but put together, it becomes something significant. And then we do the multiplication together, you get your dividends. And at the same time, you are learning the ropes of how to run projects, business projects, agribusiness projects, because you are not only contributing your money, but you're also getting the knowledge, so that when you want to start your own projects, you already have the base of how you can do that. So that's basically what the latest project is about.
Thank you very much. There are people who have got rural homes here.
Yeah.
Yes. So can you? I know you ran a camp meeting where.
Skills camp.
Yeah, a skills camp where you were teaching people on what to look for when they look for a rural home. Can you take us, I think there were 4 or 5 steps there. Can you take us so that the crowd here may know? Now, some will want to go and look for a rural home. What are the things that they should look for, and how they should run their rural homes?
Okay, so the agricultural camp, it went through what we went through yesterday, but at least we covered all the 5 jars. Then from there we began to unpack the principles of how then you can acquire a rural home and how you can develop it. So you're asking about the steps of what you look for a rural home. Okay, so basically where I come from, the country where I come from, many people say I don't have money to buy a farm, but many people they've got a rural background where they come from, they've got homes. Some can have as much as even 15 to 20 hectares, but they don't understand that they've got actually a resource that they can use. So it seems your starting point is, before you start trying to buy farms to do that, why don't you consider where you come from? All you need to do is to go and look at the village head. You tell them you are a child from this area. They should be able to give you land. And some parents have actually reserved land for their children. But somehow, because of our mindset, we don't see that land is actually being valuable. Yet so many things can be done. So the other thing that we are encouraging people, the law in my country says that when one discovers minerals on your farming land, what you own is what's on the surface. What's underneath is not yours. So if somebody discovers some minerals on your property, whether it's a rural farm, they are allowed to actually do mining on your property. So simply say, one of the things is try as much as possible to survey the area. In Zimbabwe, you should be able to get some minerals. Yeah, they don't have to be gold, but there's things that you can. Then you actually register that as a claim, so that at least you are protected in terms of that land. Then also teach people that the first thing you do when you want to look for land is water. You first survey for water, because if you don't have water, you're as good as having an extension of a forest. It's not productive. So most people, they make mistakes, especially from the diaspora, and including people from here. They easily hear there is land, it's cheap, or they got the money, the cash. They don't do due diligence on whether there is water on their property. So we teach people that don't invest in land if you want to go into agribusiness. Your first task is to do thorough due diligence to make sure that you have surveyed the availability of water. Then you move on to that. So we are saving people from those kind of mistakes. I know of people who have bought 100, 200 hectares of land only to discover that there is no water. So practically, that it's not an asset anymore. It's now a liability, because there's an end that you can do on that. So those are the basic principles that we do. Then we also train people, for example, how to plant fruit trees the proper way without using these synthetic fertilizers. We also taught them things like how to set up beehives, for example, where you actually site your home. And that it doesn't have to be a rural home, it must be a country home. A country home must be comfortable. So we're teaching people that your children might not want to come to those rural areas because their picture of a rural area is a place where there's discomfort. So we're simply saying, get somebody who's knowledgeable about land. You take the person to that rural property. Then you tell them exactly what you want. The siting, the design of the house, but the principle is it must be a home that's livable. I've seen quite some good houses in Kempton Park here. We're simply saying you are able to do that, to build a house in Kempton, in a rural area, that is as good as Kempton Park, or even as better as Kempton Park, so that your children, they get to like to go to a rural area. It should not be a place where they think this place is not livable. So that's what we want to tell people, that make sure you plant for it to be a country home. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it has to be, there must be forethought and planning so that it is a livable and comfortable home. The other things, for example, to say, where do you place your orchard? In other words, you must have a plan for things that you want to put there. You must have a plan to say, I'm going to develop my property this way. Am I going to go into orchards? Where do I place my orchard? How far from the house? The health issues. So it cannot be haphazard. You need to engage people who are knowledgeable, who are experts, for you to structure, to have a site plan, and also your development plan for that place.
Thank you very much. So to the audience and the viewers at home, I've seen in Zimbabwe people coming as far as China, going to get land in the rural areas. So we've got land in our rural areas. So go and grab a land, start with something. One most important point that Brother Chulu touched on is trying to get a claim so that there's no one who will come and get a claim in your land. Because of time, Elder Chulu, where can people get hold of you, those who want to go and develop their rural homes? What's your contact details?
Yeah, my number, my mobile, I'm not very social media person. Right, 0775 994 619. That's Zimbabwe. 0775 994 619. Please up me. I'm very efficient on WhatsApp. If you try to call me, I might not be able because of my 0775 994 619. Brother Sipo, I think there's something that I would want to share.
Okay, before you share, the code is +263. The code is +263. Okay, your last thoughts before we give back to Pastor Mlopa?
That's fine. We talked about the issue of capital, that people always cry about that they don't have capital.
Yes.
If you read, so one of the principles that we teach in this my rural home is my farm.
Yes.
Is Proverbs 24 verse 27. Powerful principle that says, prepare your outside work, make it fit for yourself in the field. Afterwards, build your house.
Yes.
That's a principle that unlocks capital. So a house generally represents a liability, in the sense that most houses, people, they live in them, they don't rent them out, they're not lodges. Then your field represents your assets, things that bring in income. If I would pick randomly people in the audience,
Yes.
somebody might have a phone that's worth maybe 2,000 US dollars, which is in runs about
Around 36,000.
36,000 is possible. I wish people would be shown on the screen a pawpaw tree. I don't know if you get time. So there's a pawpaw tree. It's a hybrid. Within 12 months, you're harvesting. And if we teach you the principles, you need only about 100 rands to invest in that tree. And within 9 months, it's giving you about 70 to 80 fruits. I looked in the shops there. It's going for about 20 rand one. That's retail. It means if you're wholesaling, that's about 10 rand times 80. How much is that?
800 rands.
800 rands on that tree. And your investment is how much? Is only 100 rands.
100 rands.
So And those seedlings, they cost you equivalent of equivalent of 60 rand. So if you can divide for me, Elder Sipo, 32,000
Yes.
rands by 60 rands. So if you've got a phone that's worth that much, just look at your phone
32,000
divided by 4.
divided by 4
Yeah.
is 8,000.
Divided by 60.
Or divided by 60. That's 533.
So if you're holding your phone, you are actually holding a pawpaw plantation with 500 trees. That's what you're holding in your hands. So I want to show you how much money that you are playing around with. So on average, if that pawpaw is giving 50 fruits, how many trees? 500 times 60 fruits
Times 60 is 30,000.
times 10 rands.
Is 300,000.
So you're potentially donating how much?
300,000.
300,000 rands per year. That's the potential amount of money we are holding that you could have made in your phone. And these purposes, they can give you commercial value for 6 years. So multiply by 6.
Times 6, 1.8 million.
So potentially you are holding an investment that could give you 1.8 million US dollars in 6 years. So when you are going to take out your phone, just know that you are phoning with an orchard of 500 purposes. That's what you're doing. So people say they don't have capital, yet they've got the capital. The challenge is our thinking is house first before the field. But the verse says you start with the field, we start with the assets. And then those assets should be able to buy you the liability. So the challenge is not you having a liability, but we're simply saying a liability must be matched by an asset. I'm on fire. Just last one.
Yes.
Some hairstyles that our women have. You know, I like hairstyles. My wife is not restricted to hairstyles, but we've got a principle in our home. My wife is called Mangube. So when I open her wardrobe, I see a lot of nice clothes, you know, women's clothes at church, the green, the purple. I don't know what you use here for church. Then I say, my wife, they are beautiful, and I want you to have beautiful dresses. You know, I have no problem with that. But let's calculate how many goats you are hanging in the wardrobe. Then I say, Mangube, you don't have a wardrobe anymore. You have got a goat robe. Then I say to my wife, she's in the village, say, Mngami, ungagqoki imbuzi. Don't put on a goat. Gqokiswa zimbuzi. So there's nothing wrong with you having your hairstyle. But don't wear pawpaw trees here. So some hairstyles, they can actually buy, we call it barbed wire fence. A barbed wire fence that can actually fence a 1 hectare orchard. 1 hectare orchard. So we are working with your hairstyle. You could be wearing a barbed wire that can fence. But there's nothing wrong with that. When we plant our pawpaws, then our pawpaws can fund our hairstyles. That's what we're talking about. So you do have capital. I've got friends in Zimbabwe who are driving cars that can buy 130 hectares of land. So in Harare Mbulayo, they are busy driving and parking farms. Yeah? They are parking farms. That's the capital that they have. But the thinking is that I do not have capital. You do have capital. You do have capital. And in the Bible, you don't have to have a lot of money. Tell me, for whatever amount of money that is in your pocket, it's enough for you to get something that you can invest in that multiplies. Even if it's a rand. If you don't have money, I'll tell you what to do. We'll go where they dump things, and then we are going to get some seeds. Yeah, some seeds of say mango for free. And you can plant. So there is no excuse about capital. So these books that I have here, the 3 of them, I know ladies are going to like these ones. So the principles on financial management, this one is a bit on the formal side. It's 80 lessons that you find here on financial literacy, the things we're talking about. But this one it translates the principles, but in a story form, just like the parables of Jesus. So this one is called the Titus COVID-19 Journey. It's about a gentleman who worked for a non-governmental organization, but during COVID, the NGO was shut down, and there was no money coming through. So it traces his journey as he discovers the principles of biblical financial literacy and entrepreneurship to try and get around the issues that were affecting his family. This one, it's a story form. It's a story form. Then this one is called Manu and Madube. That's purely African, Manu and Madube. An African story of family and finances. So Madube is abandoned by his husband, Manu. And when he's abandoned, they were staying in town. So the landlord says, gives them 2 months. So she had to relocate to a rural area with the 3 children. And they begin to discover the principles of financial literacy. So it's written in very simple language. I don't use complicated language. But these are stories that I know women, you enjoy them, but at the same time, you become financial literate and you also become entrepreneurial literate. But I will encourage you to get all the 3 books, because if you read them and reference them, they will cover all the issues that you're talking about in a practical way. So I think I've hit that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, my elder. Those who would want, there's much. I've read the 2 books, Manu and Madube, and Up Your Financial Game. I've read them too. So there's many questions that you will come up with. So for any questions, his stand, I think, is right there. You will go and see him. Ask as much questions as possible. Those who are at home, listening from home, you can get our elder from the number that he gave us. Thank you very much. May we have a blessed day. I'll hand over to Pastor Mlopo, wherever he is. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the time.
Tiende kudenga tinona mawanga mumawoko a tiende tinona mawanga mumawo vano kumira vano tswa Pachitenda diye. Welcome back. We're just warming up. Hallelujah. We were so grateful for the presentation we've just had now. I'm going to invite my brother Mpumi to the stage, together with Mpumelelo Ndiweni, together with Travis from Standard Bank. These 2 gentlemen are going to talk to us about investments. Please come through, my brother. They're going to talk to us about investments. They're going to talk to us about how we can be able to grow our companies, how we can be able to grow our investments, how we can be able to foster relationships with them so that we can be in a position where our businesses are able to move to the next level. Welcome the 2 gentlemen. What does the church say?
Breakfast culture shake. Healthy happiness.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and a hearty welcome to the both of you. Let's start with you, Mr. Mpumi. Can you just give us a short introduction? I know you did yesterday, but just for the benefit of the viewers and those who are with us today who were not with us yesterday.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mpumelelo Ndiweni. I've been an entrepreneur for the past 22 years, spanning through 5 countries. So when we speak business and funding, more or less seen it all, having gone through the challenges. Starting off, my first economic opportunity was selling freezers at a bus terminal when I was in grade 4. That's where it started from, up to the present point where I am running Ezru Life, which is a health vertical meant to better people's life, decentralize medical facilities, and also offer preventative nutraceuticals.
Wow, that's a powerful profile right there. Mr. Mpumelelo Ndiweni is also the director of Ezulu Foods and DTI facilitator for funding. So, Department of Trade and Industry, he facilitates the funding that comes from them. And I'm excited to have you on the panel today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Travis Malube, please do give us a short introduction of yourself.
Thank you, Abraham. And I'd like to first to greet you all in the name of the Holy Spirit. My name is Malube Travis Lalo. I'm an employee at Standard Bank. I'm a business manager. I deal with with SMEs, and yeah, there's a lot that we do, and I've been in this business department for close to 10 years now, and I've seen startups, I've seen businesses that are doing well, and the shortcomings and the successes. Thank you.
Wow, Mr. Malube with Standard Bank, he is indeed a business consultant there and does wonderful work there. There's a very short entrepreneur here in front who is advertising some of the bags that we're having. Please do grab a bag as we leave. Do grab a bag like this one so that all the material you are collecting from every business you can put into this bag right by the door on your right hand side. Please remember to do that. Gentlemen, I want to talk to you about funding models. I'm going to ask you 2 questions, 2 very important questions. Number 1, what are the funding models that are there? And number 2, what prerequisites are there? Please keep in mind the follow-up question, which will be, what are the things that people do and they don't get the funding model? What are the mistakes that people make when applying for funding and they don't get the funding because of whatever mistakes? So the first question is, what funding models are there? And the second question is, what must we do to be able to access those funds?
Okay, I think I'll touch on the funding models, and then the banker will then help us on the prerequisites. Sure. Broadly, you've got 3 main funding models. The first is balance sheet funding. As a matter of fact, I don't think there's any big business that exists without that type of funding model that it runs with, meaning it's sustained by debt based on its assets. The second funding model that's there is the revenue model. Now, the revenue model is how much money are you generating? Then you are being financed based on what you are generating. So the balance sheet is based on your assets that you can use as collateral. Chul was talking about a farm, was talking about the cars. You can use that for balance sheet funding. Revenue, how much money is your business bringing in? Then based on that, then we can then find how can you be funded based on that. And then the third model, which really is is a gray area that is very broad, which is venture capital. Why I'm saying it's broad because it has got where you've got angel funders, people that believe in you. You don't have any asset, you don't have any revenue, but someone believes in your idea and thinks this is a venture that I can what? That I can put money in. So you've got that type as a third stage. So meaning the first would be, now looking at business cycles, you've got venture capital or that actually starts off angel investing. After that, you then get revenue based, which then branches off into, you've got private equity and so forth and so on. And then you then have the third, mature businesses that then get balance sheet funded based on the assets that they have. I think the prerequisites then, you can actually articulate that. Sure.
Thanks, Bumi. Earlier on, I had a conversation with Bumi earlier on about the funding part. I think you mentioned grants. Yeah. So at the bank, one of the things that we really don't do is grants. What we normally do is loans. That's what we do most, and or basically that's our business of actually lending money out to clients. But now the thing is, when it comes to that, most of the SMMEs, I know that they don't really have the proper documentation or the know-how on how to access the funds from a bank. I was then start with first saying the first thing is having an account at the bank. That's very important. Especially with us, because we have ways of trying to assist in terms of the SMMEs on how to access the funds in terms of growing their business. First of all is we need an account which a person needs to run, and that account needs to be managed in a very, very proactive way that you don't have your, if you're going to be putting on in debit orders, make sure that there are no unpaids. You can't put something and you don't cater for. And also with Standard Bank, what we do, previously a couple of years back, we used to fund you or give you money in 6 months from trading with us or from using your account with Standard Bank. But obviously we have people that normally sort of destabilize such things. And now that has since then, the months have then been moved to 12 months of trading. The reason for that was also because what happens is that when we do then give you the funds after 6 months, after then a person will take that money and use it for something that is not for the business growth, and then the business end up failing, and the directors or the owner of the business, they would run away. Then hence now we think that 12 months is more sufficient for everyone who is an entrepreneur. If you're running a business for 12 months, I doubt if you would like to see your business failing. So the 12 months span, that is actually for, we do give out, so we lend against actually turnover. Okay. We look at the turnover of the client, and then based on that, we'll run our algorithms at the back, and then we'll see how much you would qualify for a loan. And that's not including a balance sheet or your annual financial statements. That will be purely based on the turnover of the business. So it would be wise then if you open an account and if you're running it, you make sure that each and every transaction that you get goes through the business account. That will allow you to be able to have access to things like overdraft and loans, and also asset finance as well, in terms of depending on what type of business you're running. If you're running a farm, obviously it will be equipment associated to farming. If it's a transport business, that will be vehicles or any other equipment that will actually sort of help you to run your business. And then for more complex loans, then you or for funding, then that's where your balance sheet starts to kick in, which is also very, very important for businesses to have an accountant and a tax practitioner as well. So because what happens is that every 12 months we need to actually have a view of what the business has done in the previous months. That's where your financials will come in, and and also it also helps you when you need to actually to apply for new loans or for any facilities that are beyond the scope of your revenue, because we do borrow above your revenue, but obviously we would need to understand, as when we said, the balance sheet, the strength of your balance sheet. That's also very important. Not leaving out that. Look, the other things that we have seen in businesses is that when businesses are doing well, people tend to buy assets of which are not of assistance to the business, or which are not adding value to the balance sheet. Yeah, so those are the things that people need to just to stay away from. But I can explain. To spend more time on that, but that's how then we look at funding, and the prerequisites are at the bank. Those are actually, the financials are very important, and most importantly is collateral. Then that mostly comes from, it's either from the business itself or from the business owners. Yeah, though, and we've seen most of people, they are struggling when it comes to collateral, which is security, which is also known as security. That's maybe any type of property or any movable assets. But obviously with movable assets, we then will need to value them and see if they still have value. As you know, movable assets, they depreciate, but we'll then have to actually to reassess them to see if we can take them as collateral or security.
Wow, thank you, man. Complex loan. Can you just explain to us a little bit about that?
Okay. So with simple loans, as I said earlier on, it's basically driven by revenue. So we look at the revenue, and then the system will pre-approve you for a certain loan. It could be a loan or an asset finance. So that also helps the business to grow, and we can only do that after 12 months of trading. Previously, it used to be 6 months, but obviously we've seen a couple of things that were not actually working, then it was moved to 12 months. So after 12 months of trading and also for us seeing revenue, we then actually, obviously we do, in most cases, especially these days, I think from last year, we've done pre-approvals, pre-approvals that were actually, that when you sign on your internet banking, it pops up to say that you are pre-approved for so much. So that's us being trying to be proactive, because we know that most people they will think that sometimes it's very difficult to access funds from the bank, which now we're trying to remove that narrative to say, guys, there are ways of getting funds in a more simple way, and you can do your own application yourself. Once you've been pre-approved, you can do from A to Z, and you'll get your funds within 24 hours. Wow. Okay, that's the simple part. And then for the more complex loans, we talk of maybe if you need to acquire something that is of substantial value to your business, which is more complex. Maybe we're looking, let's say, at a loan of about 10 million. That's where, or anything above $1 million. Let me put it that way. Anything above $1 million, we regard that as a complex loan, where we would need financials, and that's where we're also going to be needing collateral or security. That's then we would need you to actually try to support your loan based on that, which then we need those will be supporting information that we will need to assess if the business will be in a position to be able to repay any loans.
Thank you so much. So we're talking about loans, we're talking about grants, and I want to know what are the mistakes that businesses make, common mistakes that businesses make for them to fail approval for the grant or for the loan?
Yeah, I think I'll start off from the simple funding.
Sure.
The biggest mistakes that we have seen that businesses make is inconsistent cash flows. Inconsistent cash flows, where 1 month you have 200 rand coming in, the next month 0, 0, 0, and then 50 rand, and then so there is that inconsistency. And normally what happens from a business perspective, because I also run a business, what normally happens, it's not that businesses are not making money or they're not operational. It's because you get, for example, we are running a stand there, you get purchases that come in as cash. And SMEs don't bank that money. They immediately take that, go straight and pour fuel on it. So it creates a zero balance of a sale that I've done. So teach yourself and be disciplined that whenever you make any transaction and you've received cash, bank it. That's very critical. And the good part is you can then put as a reference probably a sale. That way then your account has got consistency of cash that's coming in. That's mistake number one that's normally done. Mistake number two is we largely, due to the high unemployment that's pertaining, most people are running what are called lifestyle businesses. So they are running those businesses to sustain themselves. And the mistake that people do is you then run your personal expenses on the company account. That's a big problem, because when it then comes in for assessments, then it shows an element of someone who is not disciplined, that even if you are being funded now, already you have shown that you do have the capacity to consume company funds for your personal expenses. You as an entrepreneur, you as a business owner must have a salary, which you then take out consistently and run a separate card on. Do not run your personal with the business. That normally is the challenge. So that's on the simple funding, which as Travis is speaking to them, that literally this is what you can actually go and do for yourself, and the bank systems then tell you how much you are actually can access. Then on the more complex, which is where from a network facilitator perspective, from the DTI, where we then have problems, as you said, most entrepreneurs do not have accountants. They do not have credible, what can I say, financial statements. So you are making money, but you cannot tell the next person through a credible document how much you are making. And then the time comes and you need more equipment, you need funding. All right? With the network facilitator, that is the PBSDP, the Black Business Supply Development Program, yes. What it would do is it would then say you qualify for between 250,000 to about $1 million that the government gives. This is in South Africa. In Zim, the Empower Bank has got a program that runs up to $100,000. In Zambia, I know the Citizens Economic Empowerment has got another same facility again for grants that runs up to 100,000 as well. This is US. Yeah, these are US dollars. So the moment you come in and you don't have credible financial statements, there is nothing that we can base the grant funding on. There's nothing, because the way that the grant funding works is it provides half of what you actually need. So if you're coming in for funding for equipment, the equipment is probably going to be R1 million. We will give you 500,000 rand, and the other 500,000 rand, you then have to find a way to actually raise that. Yeah. But now, if I cannot see, I cannot even determine whether that R1 million, where is it going to come from? What have you been doing? So it's very critical, as you said, to get an accountant, to constant, and this it needs to get into your DNA. When you make any expense, just keep a box. Just keep a box where you keep throwing in all your receipts. End of the month, you take that box, give it to your accountant, it draws up your income statement for that month. Over time, they build up a management account, which in a year then becomes a financial statement. When you need funding, you've got something that you can actually what? That you can produce. The third problem is tax. Yeah. We've got a problem with tax. Most of us do not, because obviously there's no accountant. we are not tax compliant. We did a project once that was funded and a very viable business. And this guy then turned up that he owed SARS 2 million. That couldn't be funded at that point. I mean, due diligence kicked it out. You do not want that you get to a point where you've been running your business, you've got the financial statement, it is viable, you come in, and the next thing is you've got something from SARS that's waiting over your head. So make sure that your tax concerns are always in line. It's very critical, even if it's nil returns, which is what a small business, most of us do. Let's make sure that we get our accountant to upload your nil returns and produce your tax clearance regularly. So those are the three things. So those are the three things that I would speak of. Number one, do not run your personal expenses in your business account. Two, make sure that your cash flow is consistent. Three, make sure that your tax and therefore your accounting procedures are in place.
Wow, thank you, man. It's important to understand the financials actually help in terms of approval, and the mistakes that are commonly made that kick us out of actually accessing those financial models. Now, my last question, I think, on this subject is that if, for example, a person has got their financials all in order, but they don't have on the projections that they're having, the term that they're proposing does not give a break even, say for example in the next 2.5 years or 3 years, right? It only begins to make money after 3 years, but it makes lucrative exponential returns after 3 years. It doesn't make those returns before that 3 years. How do you then deal with that kind of situation?
Okay, I'll take this one. When it comes to that, when we come to loans at the bank, the first thing that we look at is the existing business, or the current financials, which is the historical figures of the previous year. So those, what we then do, we look at those and see, can the business actually be able to or is it in a position to repay what you actually want to acquire at the time? So the projection.
Sorry, at what time? When you're talking about repayment, then what duration?
Currently. Okay, we're talking about currently, yeah. So the current business or the current strength of the financials needs to say that we are able to actually to repay. Then the projections are just saying that going forward, this is what we're projecting that we will. So basically, for example, even if let's say now we look at we are going to be able to repay our loan, but that will actually sort of squeeze us a bit. But in the long run, we are going to be comfortable by us acquiring the loan, which will help us to acquire whatever we need, which will actually generate revenue for the business. That's how then we look at the projections versus the financials. And the other thing that I wanted to add when Bumi was actually talking about the mistakes that we're doing as entrepreneurs, or what or entrepreneurs are doing, the one of the most things that people actually forget in terms of business, the reserves. We normally say that we'll find that the business is turning probably 45 million, and then they have a good equity base on their financial statements, but the actual tangible finance or investments, you find that the business doesn't even have investments. That's where then the reserves part comes in, because lack of businesses or most businesses that lacked reserves during the COVID, they have failed. Because you couldn't come to the bank at the time, or you could, but in most cases, if you're not trading, we can't assist you. because there's no revenue. So if we give you a loan, how are you going to repay us? That was before. Then obviously, even when we looked at the government grant or the government loans or guaranteed loans, which were called COVID loans, then we also looked at that. Although that we gave you the payment holiday of 3 months to 6 months, but we needed to know after that period, will you be able to pay us? So reserves are very important in a business. So that means that you have to have investments. You have to put something aside for your business, even if it's 5,000 rands or whatever amount, which will also help in terms of the business growth. Because the banks are not always going to be able to assist you. There are things that maybe they cannot fund or they cannot give you a loan for. So, for example, if you're starting up a new business, we cannot lend to your business to start a new business. Because that's seen as what is the term? Sorry, I just forgot the term now. But we don't give you loans to lend to another business. If we lend your business loans to your current business, then it has to actually to bring value to the current business. So those are the kind of things that we look at when we're dealing when it comes to financials and also loans, and also when it comes to reserves.
Sure, thanks. Look, I want to talk to both of you about companies that do business with bigger organizations, such as the government, such as international companies, such as your blue chip companies, and so forth. So you get a RFQ, a request for quotation, and then it comes to a purchase order level, and now I must deliver. I don't have the capital. How do you have facilities where you can be able to chip in and say, okay, based on the fact that you have been awarded and you have a purchase order and all of that, we can be able to help you at this. Do you have that facility, and how does it work?
Yeah, I think from the DFI space, which is the Development Finance Institutions, they largely have what is called the invoice discounting. Invoice discounting, meaning that these are programs where you can go and deliver that invoice for them to be able to fund on that invoice. Yes, but largely from the banking sector, which is where your bank account is spoken, comes into play, because the bank also does. I think probably Travis is going to get into that regarding what Standard Bank does. But I know from a DFI space that IDC does invoice discounting, Gauteng Enterprise Propeller does it as well. I'm trying to think, obviously recognizing our audience, that you've got people from different countries. I'm trying to think outside of South Africa who does. I know in Botswana the BDC does invoice discounting. In Zambia and Zim, I'm not quite sure who would do invoice discounting. So that is what probably, if one had a purchase order and wanted institutional support. But largely, you probably need to look for MFIs, microfinance institutions. Those are the people that would definitely fund that quicker.
And so that funding, would it be a grant at that level, or would it be a loan?
No, it's as it's saying, so it's invoice discounting. So meaning they are taking a portion.
Okay.
So they're taking a portion, so they're discounting your invoice, maybe 15% already. They're taking, so okay, we'll give you R1 million for you to go and service this order. The invoice comes back and we give you 850,000. 150,000 comes to us.
Okay, wonderful. Mr. Travis.
Yes, on that, yeah, we also do it's the same thing. It's the same concept where we do invoice discounting. But in terms of invoice discounting, the business has to be stable. It has to be an existing business. And also, again, with us, when we look at invoice discounting, we don't sort of give it to anyone. For example, if your account, if you're not trading, we can't give it to you. So it has to be something, it has to be business, it has to be an ongoing business where we do invoice discounting, but not maybe for a single order or purchase order. No, we don't do it that way. We do it, it has to be on an ongoing business. Basically, we have to have a business that could actually say that if that invoice is not settled, can I repay? Can the business, or is the business in a position to repay whatever that you took from us? So without that demonstration, we can't.
Okay, just a quick one. So while we're still on the subject, somebody they've been green lighted by an international enterprise, and they are supposed to supply, say, coffee, for example, to a chain of restaurants. But the international institution then says to them, you need, I'm in ISO, I do ISO implementations and upkeep and so forth. You need an ISO certificate to be able to complete this process, but the contract is yours. You just need an ISO certificate for this process, and then so that we can be able to give you the contract. Now, the business doesn't have an ISO certificate. Would you be in a position, or what channels can that business take to be able to get certification for anything that really they need to produce so that they can be able to get a contract?
I think there's quite a number of government programs that actually do fund those type of, yes, that's enterprise development to make sure that companies are ISO 9001 certified, your programs. For example, if you're in the health space, you want it to go through SAPRA and so forth and so on. Yeah, you would probably better off approaching government programs. DTI does run a couple of programs. I've already mentioned, as you mentioned, the network facilitation on the black business supply development. I know IDC as well does run. There was a business support program that they were running as well. So you obviously want to look into that space. And this, I think we, as entrepreneurs and small businesses, do make this mistake that we don't acclimatize ourselves to this information until we need it. You need to be deliberate about it. Just give yourself maybe once a month or once a week to approach one DFI or MFI. Normally when you speak to them, they tell you, no, the people who cover this type of funding, please go to that. They tend to refer you to the right channels. But don't wait. Just go to IDC, and literally they will then open up probably, we don't do this, go this way and this way. So just don't wait, but definitely it's government programs that can do that for you.
Wonderful. Any coverage of that from the bank side?
No, not
Okay,
enough.
wonderful. Thank you so much. I think this is the last few questions. Can you give us maybe a list or a list of institutions that you can readily be able to approach for funding at an SMME level? I think that's the mostly what we are dealing with today.
I think you can take it.
Okay, because he's already one of them.
Yeah, because
He's already one of them that literally probably can then come in and tell us what Standard Bank can do for SMEs. But definitely, I think you've all been hearing me repeating the same: IDC, DTI, NEF, GEP, Gauteng. Sorry, I'm not giving you all the acronyms. Gauteng Enterprise Propeller, Industrial Development Corporation, Department of Trade and Industry, the National Empowerment Fund. You've also got, it was Umsobomvu, I don't know what it has been converted to now. So those always have grants and even trainings. Even trainings, I know they do cover. For example, if you are within a space where you need to be trained to a particular level for you to be able to access any work, I know they actually are in a position to fund that. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. Mr. Travis, any last words?
Yeah, on our side, what I could also maybe mention, we also have a business support programs, program which is called Enterprise Development, which is meant mostly for to help with the SMMEs as well. But obviously we do look at the business case depending on the type of business and what the need is. And also one of the things that we normally require is for that particular business to be banking with us. But if not, still we can still look at the ways of how we can still assist them. But I can't commit on anything to say that this is what we can assist you with. But obviously we do have a couple of things that we can assist with individuals. And if one of you or some of the audience are actually interested into finding out more, they can obviously contact me, and I'll be happy to share information on that. And obviously, we will first have to look at the business and also the needs.
Sure, thanks.
I think I'd forgotten also one that people can do. Also, look at your industry. Look at your industry. Look at the biggest monopoly that's within your industry, the biggest company within your industry. I know a lot of corporate companies have got enterprise development programs where they support small businesses because it helps them for their BE scorecard, their ESGs. So look at the biggest within your what you call it, within your industry, and approach them. I mean, for us, for example, we were in the food space. I know Tiger Brands ran a program. They still are running it. That funds businesses to grow them. ArcelorMittal, also those that are in the engineering space, runs one. Anglo-American runs one as well. So look at who is the biggest monopoly, and they definitely at some point do have an enterprise development program that they can be able to fund. That is obviously if you are a supplier supplying into their value chain.
Sure, wonderful. I was hoping you would touch also on incubators, but we've run out of time. Thank you so much, gentlemen, and we are so grateful that you were able to share with us these insights. This is Mr. Mpumelelo Ndiweni, the director at Ezulu Foods and the DTI facilitator for funding. Mr. Travis Malube, business consultant at Standard Bank. We are so grateful, gentlemen, that you have been with us.
Thank you. Before we go, just telling everybody that today, just for today, for the expo, we have discounted our products. At SPA, you'd get it at 35 Rand. But just for today, we are selling it to you guys at 25 Rand. So you can pick your healthy cereal right as you walk past and get yourself healthy. Thank you.
Healthy cereal right in front. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. On that note, we have a blood testing center right at the beginning of the entrance of the foyer as you come in. When you get there, the first 25 people to go there, they will test for free. The first 25 people to get there, they will be testing for free. 20. Sorry? What test blood? They are testing your sugar levels and that kind of thing. It's blood tests for your sugar levels and so forth. How? Bazalwane. So we don't want to test. We're afraid to test. No, we must know these things. We must know these things. We must, at least we'll be able to deal with if there's a problem. But if there's no problem, then hey, we're healthy. We're good to go. Thank you so much. We have run out of time for today's presentations. I am going to invite Elder Sipho to come to the front so that he can be able to give us further announcements. As he's coming to the front, we want to invite everybody to please visit all the stalls, as many as you can, so that we can be able to exchange contacts and make sure that all of us are together. Elder Sipho, I know that this has been a program that has put a lot of us on the map here in the Adventist world, especially with the streaming and all of that has taken place. We are so grateful to yourself, your leadership, that you have invited all of us here to be able to showcase our businesses. And we want to request that, please, we need to have this more, not only here in Kempton Park, but we need to start moving around the whole country. I know that we've had this conversation before. I'm just making it clear to everyone that as this moves, please make sure you are tagging yourself, because this also builds an opportunity for all of us to grow. When we move to the other side of Gauteng, people will get to know about your business. When we move to the other side of the country, people get to know about your business. When we move over borders to our neighboring countries, people get to know about your business. And as we start going further international, up Africa and overseas, people get to know about your business. But people can only get to know about your business when you are close by and you have tagged yourself with this wonderful movement, Adventist Business Expo. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, my pastor. We'd like to thank everyone who participated in the Business Expo. We have had contacts from people who want us to go as far as Cape Town, as far as Zimbabwe, as far as Zambia. So let's prepare ourselves, just like what the pastor was saying. Those who missed yesterday's program or those who are at home, you can get us on Facebook, Adventist Business Expo. We have got also a YouTube channel, Adventist Business Expo. You can watch the whole program. For now, what I will say is, those who will be going around stands, there is a stand for Adventist Business Expo at the door. Get a bag so that you put your flyers, anything that they will give you around these stands. Then those who are exhibiting on the stands, like we said, get one person. There will be interviews that will be done by our media guys. So they'll just give you 5 minutes to say what your business does and what you are giving to the people. So be ready for that interview. So maybe if they are going to a stand, just give them space so that they are able to take that video. Then after the expo, what we're going to do, we're going to give each business 1 or 2 days to market. So this video that we are going to take now, we will market it later. We'll tell you which day we are giving it to you. So if we give you 2 days, so for those 2 days, we'll be playing your videos and other material that you will give us. I'll request that everyone, let's share the channels. Go and like our YouTube channel, go and like our Facebook page, go and like our Twitter page, so that when we start circulating the videos for people who are here, you are also able to share with your friends. May the good Lord bless us. We are here till 4 o'clock. So let us take time, speak to each and every stand. May the good Lord bless us. Amen.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask that they play music for us as we continue with the expo. God bless.